A warm welcome to everyone staying with me so far. I know we are nearing lunchtime in most parts of Europe, so I try to make my talk not that boring and not that long, okay? So stay with me, please. I will share my screen. Okay, and that is okay. First things first, what I don't want to do today is talk about AI, okay? Unless you ask me afterwards and you beg me to. We have something AI related up in our sleeves, but that's not my main topic today. Let me do things in that order. I will introduce my company, ITOMIG, and our tool, which is iTop for IT service management solutions. And then I will show you our success story with a customer in Germany. But let's start with who we are. We are ITOMIG, a company located in Central Europe. More central is not possible, I think. And we are active since 2009 and have many different customers all across Europe. And the important thing is, most of them or many of them are running highly critical infrastructure. That's maybe sets us apart from the default IT service management solution. So I can, in some cases, not do name dropping of the companies or the public institutions we work for, but you get the idea. And what I want to highlight when we look at this map is that we have in Europe and globally an ongoing geopolitical development in the last years where it may be a good idea in the future to be independent from big monopolistic providers from outside Europe. Okay, and now, give me a second, my slides are stuck. Our product comes into play. That's iTop. iTop is an IT service management solution which can be used for everything around ITIL-based ticketing. You see that we are an accredited tool vendor for 15 ITIL practices, and that's for a reason. The default processes, incident management, change management, etc., works like a charm. You can do asset management with iTop, and you can integrate all your data from your company into the iTop database to use for your needs. And as I have mentioned already, we are very strong in high security environments. iTop can be hosted in air-gapped installations where you can have your upgrades, your release upgrades of the base software deployed into the air-gapped environment. That's a very nice thing to have. And iTop is used in all kinds of companies. The community version, which is free of charge, you can download it on GitHub and set up your own web server, install it, and it runs for you for free. Is typically run in small companies with 10 to 500 employees. Our customer base are much larger companies and public institutions with 500 to 40K employees. Okay, with that said, let me go to the next slide and let the story, our success story with Bechtle begin. And to set the stage, I want to introduce the other actors on it, okay? On the one hand, we have ITOMIG, which is my company. We are working with different IT service providers across Europe, providing iTop as an IT service management tool. And Bechtle is one of our long-standing customers. And they are using iTop internally for their own business, okay? And they started, or they were in a race in a public tender for one of Germany's major banking institutes. Okay, I cannot name them, but they are big. And how things go, Bechtle did win the tender. Project was theirs. Problem was that it came a little by surprise. Yeah, you know how it is. You want the project, but then when it comes, it's suddenly. And Bechtle did know already that iTop works well because they did use it internally. And they did know that they have to deliver IT services for their new big banking client with an own IT service management solution. So the question was, what do? And with this question, they came to ask. They came to ask us, and basically said, what can we do here? What can we do with iTop? And we provided help in integrating the synchronization of all the needed IT assets, which are relatively easy to implement because most of the assets are static, and the ticketing workflows. Yeah, you have to have ongoing information between one ITSM system, which is Bechtle's, and the banking system, which is a thing we do not know. And then you have for every user request, for every incident, you have to have information going back and forth between the two systems, and this has to be stable. Yeah, because the quality of service of Bechtle for their client relies heavily on stable information flows. They thought it would be a major problem, but with our help, it was not that difficult. In a very short time, and to be honest, with not that much manpower, I think involved in the project were 2 or 3 people from Bechtle and 2 people from us. We managed to integrate all the information workflows between Bechtle and their customer. Very nice and very fast and not that costly. And this resulted in Bechtle being happy, the customer being happy. Everything is nice. But in the real world, things happen. And that was the case in this project as well. A few months after we had successfully integrated all the data synchronization between Bechtle and their customer, the customer did change their IT service management solution. So panic was there. What can we do with all the interfaces we had in place already and which were provided in a very short time frame and did work? Bechtle saw a risk of breaking things with the migration of their customer to a new IT service management solution. And again, they came to us and said, what can we do? And because iTop integrates very generic and easy usable interfaces to synchronize data between external third-party tools, it was again relatively easy to connect the new IT service management system to our customer Bechtle, and things were running smoothly. Yeah, that's our success story. The thing most important in this case is that from our point of view, in Bechtle, everything runs on premise. That's very important for them. They have a high, they have very secure data to host there, so they don't want to give it out. And we do this for many other customers as well, and it scales up to one of our biggest customer has 5 to 8 million assets in one database with hundreds of thousands of tickets a year. That's for the success story. I said I will keep it short, and I think I did. But with that, we have more time for your questions. Ashley, if there is any, feel free to ask.
Awesome, Robert. Thank you. So you mentioned in your presentation that the solution is on premise and there's the opportunity of having it air gapped. What about a cloud solution? Is that something that you could do, or is it something on the roadmap?
Yes, that's not on the roadmap. That is something we can do. Yeah, we already have an iTop as a service cloud offering, but we do not concentrate on that. Yeah. No.
Okay, cool. You mentioned that it's open source and that companies can download it and use it for free. What are the limitations that come within that free usage or no formal license?
Yeah. That I think everyone I was raised in a nerdy open source environment. Yeah, I was not raised in sales, so that's and that's the spirit of our company. We are open source enthusiasts, let's say it that way. So with the limits in using open source software are your own human resources. Let me put it that way, because when the download is free, you can use it without a license cost, etc. But you have to put human resource into it to have people knowing the software, knowing the tool, and knowing how to administer it. And there we come into play. Yeah, if you need help with that, then you can rely on our services.
Okay.
Answers this the question?
So at the beginning, you said you weren't going to include AI in your presentation, and we have a number of questions that have come in asking how ITOMIG is approaching AI,
Yeah.
and if iTop is going to have a degree of integration with AI. How is ITOMIG approaching artificial intelligence, and what is the plans for what AI is going to do to enhance your solutions?
Yeah. Okay, that's a good question, and I really like what Christian from Omninet said earlier on, that he told about training your large language models to have reliable data in the model to have consistent answers. And that's the thing we are doing right now, because as I have said already, our customers have mission critical high secure data in their databases, and they don't want to put information in some global AI solution and get answers back. So our approach is to provide solutions for hosting, besides iTop, your own language model in your controlled environment and train that on a regular basis. And just to, am I sharing my screen? Yes. Just to show you that that's how an iTop backend view looks. And I have created a request here just to showcase what we will do. If I click here and want to communicate with my client in the backend, in case I have a user request I have to work on, or an incident or something like that, there is an AI button already implemented. I can click on it and I can say, okay, give a response, and he will create a response. And but the important thing is all of that comes from an on-premise hosted large language model. We don't access or prompting OpenAI or something like that. Okay. Are there any other questions?
Okay. So in the presentation, you mentioned that the banking client changed the service desk tool midway through the project.
Yeah.
And while you mentioned that the migration of the data that you work with your partner was straightforward, were there any significant changes in some of the processes within the new service desk tool? And what was the impact or any delays to the project itself?
I think the good thing in our niche of IT business is, and people third plays a role here, that everybody is speaking ITIL in some sense. So when you are asking, does the processes change much? Was it difficult? Then the good thing is, and we have seen this today, that most of the tools implement the ITIL processes in a defined way, where you can rely on having an incident being an incident. Yeah? And that's a very good thing to have. And this helped a lot in our project with Bechtle and their end customer. So we faced basically no real issues besides the standard things of having data pulled from a source and then transform it somehow and push it to another database. Yeah.
Super. Robert, thank you very much for your presentation today and your time. It was a very interesting project with the major banking client. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.